A massive U.S. aircraft carrier deployed in the open waters of the Strait of Hormuz, surrounded by its escort ships, keeps watch over one of the world's most strategic maritime choke points. A single blip appearing on the radar operator's screen suddenly shatters this calm picture. A small, low-altitude target heading directly for the ship group. This is the moment an ordinary patrol day turns into something entirely different within seconds. This type of encounter is not unusual in the region. Every crew serving along the Hormuz line has faced similar contacts before, but each new contact is treated as a separate case that must be evaluated on its own. The outcome of a past detection offers no guarantee of how the next one will play out. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow, congested waterway through which a significant portion of the world's oil trade passes, its width narrowing in places to under 20 nautical miles. This narrow passage is also one of the lines where regional powers come into closest contact with one another. Ships sailing in opposing waters often move within sight of each other. This geographic tightness creates an environment where any misunderstanding or miscalculation can escalate very quickly. Every transit through the region also carries the quality of a display of the balance of power. Every platform sailing here moves knowing it is being watched. The U.S. aircraft carrier is positioned in the middle of these waters for the purpose of overseeing the security of international maritime traffic and protecting Allied lines. The carrier strike group is not alone. It is escorted by guided missile cruisers and destroyers, each contributing its own radar and sensor capacity to build a shared air picture. This multi-layered structure allows a detail missed by one platform to be caught by another. Air defense for the strike group is handled by an FA-18 Super Hornet launched from the carrier's deck. Its mission is to detect and assess any unidentified airborne contact approaching the ship at an early stage. This begins as a routine air patrol, flying a designated pattern, maintaining continuous radar scanning, staying in constant contact with the ship. The region's narrow geography makes reaction time extremely limited. Here, even a delay of a few seconds can carry critical importance. Dozens of aircraft, technicians, and crew members are on duty simultaneously on the carrier's deck. Each one is part of the overall security of the strike group. The next patrol aircraft, being prepared for takeoff, waits on the flight deck, ready to become airborne within minutes to support the aircraft already in the air if needed. This backup structure shows that no single aircraft carries the entire burden of air defense. It is only one link in a chain. The blip appearing on the radar screen lacks clarity at first glance. The altitude is extremely low, and the speed is slower than that of a passenger aircraft, yet too steady and consistent for a bird. There is no response to the IFF interrogation. The pilot quickly rules out the possibility that the contact is a civilian aircraft. This profile closely resembles a threat type well known in the region, an armed reconnaissance and attack drone. At the same moment, a call goes out to the ship. Contact being confirmed, tracking continues. The response from the ship confirms the same assessment. Its systems have also picked up the same track and reached the same conclusion. This type of drone represents a threat category encountered frequently in the region in recent years. Thanks to their relatively small radar cross-section, low flight altitude, and comparatively quiet engine design, they push the detection range of conventional air defense radars to their limits. Their range can generally extend up to several hundred kilometers, giving them the capacity to reach targets far from their launch point. The limited but sufficient explosive payload they carry makes them a low-cost yet effective threat, particularly against high-value targets such as large ships. Their flight altitude is mostly kept close to sea level. This both complicates radar detection and narrows the reaction window of shipboard defense systems. Thanks to their low production costs, they can be manufactured in large numbers and launched simultaneously from multiple points. This is why military doctrines do not take this class of vehicle lightly, but instead classify it as an asymmetric threat element. Their capacity to create a serious risk for a much larger and more expensive platform with a small investment makes them a threat category examined under a separate heading in modern naval doctrines. The pilot tracks the contact's course for a few seconds. The course is not random. It is heading directly on a bearing locked onto the center of the ship group. This is a clear indication that it is not coincidental air traffic. He slightly lowers his altitude and narrows his angle to the target, switching his radar to a narrow scan mode to track the contact without interruption. There is no longer any ambiguity. This is a threat, and its course is clear. As the pilot closes in on the target, he also completes visual confirmation. The contact is a small aircraft with a delta wing configuration carrying a payload on the underside of its fuselage. This image, combined with the radar data, leaves no further room for doubt in the threat classification. But visual confirmation is not the only thing coming into play at this point. The aircraft's sensor suite is working at the same time. The radar and infrared search system cross-check the target's heat signature and movement profile, confirming that this is not a civilian vehicle but belongs to a defined threat category. This cross-verification process is a cornerstone of military rules of engagement designed to eliminate the risk of engaging the wrong target. No engagement decision is made based on a single sensor's data alone, but on the overlapping confirmation of multiple independent sources. At the same time, the ship's Air Defense Center cross-checks its own radar data against the pilot's detection. Two independent platforms reach the same conclusion, and a clear confirmation comes through the pilot's headset. Confirmation complete. Engagement authority is yours. The target is rapidly closing the distance to the ship. The range indicator in the cockpit shows a number shrinking by the second. At this point, the pilot faces a clear decision. If he does not intervene, the drone will reach the ship within minutes. If he does intervene, he still has the opportunity to neutralize the threat at a safe distance. Under the rules of engagement, authorization to engage a confirmed threat element is active. The pilot is no longer merely observing but taking action. He aligns his aircraft with the target and activates the weapon system. The safety switch on the control stick comes up, and the weapon symbol on the HUD turns from red to green. The system that comes into play at this stage is the AIM-9X Sidewinder missile, carried by the FA-18. The Sidewinder family is one of the most enduring missile lines used in air-to-air engagements for decades. Although its earliest versions entered service decades ago, the system has been continuously updated and has never been retired from service. Earlier versions of the family generally required approaching from behind the target in order to capture its hot engine section. This forced the pilot to gain a specific angle and position. The AIM-9X largely removes this limitation. The AIM-9X is the most advanced version of this family. The missile has a heat-seeking, short-range design. It locks on by tracking the heat signature emitted by the target's engine and airframe. Unlike previous generations, the AIM-9X's greatest advantage is its high maneuverability. After launch, the missile can execute sharp turns even against the target's sudden changes in direction, thanks to thrust vector control. This represents a level of agility unattainable by traditional fin-controlled missiles. This feature provides a critical advantage, particularly against small targets like drones that can make sudden altitude or course changes. In addition, the image processing system in the missile's seeker head is designed to distinguish a real target from heat-based decoys. This discrimination capability makes the missile usable against a much wider range of threats. In addition, the missile's off-bore sight lock-on capability allows the pilot to direct the missile without turning the nose of the aircraft directly toward the target. This significantly shortens reaction time. Thanks to the helmet-mounted targeting system, the pilot can direct the missile's seeker head simply by looking at the target. Although its range is limited to a few kilometers, the probability of a successful lock within that range is extremely high. This makes it an ideal choice, particularly against fast-developing threats like drones that appear at close range. Unlike long-range radar-guided missiles, this missile class is preferred in short-range, suddenly developing encounters because its lock-on time is extremely short and its decision-reaction loop operates far faster compared to other systems. Long-range missiles are generally preferred against threats detected early and approaching from a distance, while short-range systems like the AIM-9X come into play precisely against targets like this one that appear at the last moment or hide at low altitude. The presence of both missile classes together allows a fighter jet to respond flexibly to threats of different range and profile. The pilot locks his eyes onto the target using the helmet-mounted targeting system. In his headset, a sharp tone rises, indicating that the missile seeker head has clearly captured the target. The target continues closing on the ship, the distance nearing a critical threshold. The lock signal is stable. Confirmation is complete. This is the final step expected before engagement. The pilot checks the range indicator one last time, takes a deep breath, and issues the firing command. The missile separates from the rail launcher and closes on the target at an incredible speed within seconds. The AIM-9X's solid-fuel motor quickly brings the missile to several times the speed of sound. It draws a straight line across the sky, leaving a short trail of smoke behind it. The drone is in no position to detect this approach, nor to apply any countermeasure against it. This class of vehicle is designed as a one-way threat element, lacking any capacity for self-defense or evasive maneuvering. The missile seeker head remains locked onto the target's heat signature throughout the final approach, adapting even to the target's last-second movements with minor course corrections. The pilot watches these final seconds from the cockpit. The range indicator approaches 0. The moment of impact arrives. The drone is neutralized over open water before reaching the ship. The blip on the radar screen vanishes in an instant. Tension on the ship's deck and in the cockpit gives way to a brief silence. The pilot relays a single sentence to the ship over the radio. Target neutralized. Contact concluded. The reply from the other side is short and clear. Copy, resume patrol. The escort ships continue their mission without changing course. The aircraft carrier maintains its presence in the region. A few minutes later, another surveillance platform in the region images the debris field on the water and logs its position. This is the final step required for the incident to be processed as an official case. Screens at the strike group's Air Defense Center settle down, though not entirely. The systems remain fully alert against any next possible contact, with radar scanning continuing without interruption. Aboard the ship, the incident becomes the subject of a brief debrief within a few hours. The air defense team reviews, second by second, the time elapsed from detection to engagement, noting how long each step took and where decision speed could be improved. This type of review is carried out routinely to ensure the same process runs even faster in the next encounter. No engagement is considered fully closed once concluded. Instead, it becomes a data point from which lessons are drawn for the next one. Before turning back toward base, the pilot makes one more pass. He wants to be sure the airspace is clear. Below, the aircraft carrier, with its massive gray hull, continues moving across the water as if unaware of the tension that occurred just minutes earlier. But the same radar sweep still turns on its screens, because here, in the narrow waters of Hormuz, the end of one threat does not mean the next one won't come. This encounter tells a story far greater than the neutralization of a single drone. A small, cheap, single-use threat attempted to target a multi-billion-dollar ship, and what stopped it was not the ship's size or armor, but a censored decision weapon chain that operated within seconds. The AIM-9X's cool precision was the right system engaging at the right moment. But the missile itself was not the real point. The real point was that the chain guiding that missile to the right target at the right time never broke. This scenario concluded here, but real-life encounters do not always unfold this cleanly. A single drone, a single air defense patrol aircraft, a single clear decision. Real-life encounters are never always this clean. What if the target weren't singular, but part of a swarm approaching from several directions at once? In such a case, a single FA-18 sensor capacity and weapons load might prove insufficient, requiring the ship group's own missile defense systems to come into play as well. Or what if the drone's course had changed at the last moment, targeting not the carrier, but a smaller escort ship instead? The priority order and reaction time would become an entirely different equation. Or what if the weather conditions had been poor, making visual confirmation impossible, leaving the decision entirely dependent on sensor data? Such variations turn the same basic doctrine into a far more complex decision tree. Each additional variable multiplies the burden on both the systems and human judgment. Command centers in the region regularly run similar scenarios in exercises precisely for this reason. Every additional variable lays the groundwork for a faster and more accurate response in the next encounter. Another possible branch is the possibility that the drone itself was not the real threat, but a reconnaissance element of a larger operation. In such a scenario, neutralizing the drone would not close the matter. Instead, it could be the first step of a larger plan, testing the ship group's position and reaction time. This possibility explains why staying alert after an engagement and not interrupting radar scanning matters so much. Modern naval air doctrine treats the neutralization of a single threat not as a closure, but as part of a much bigger picture. Every concluded engagement is, at the same time, the beginning of a new period of vigilance. In this video, we examined how an air defense patrol aircraft detected and neutralized a single asymmetric threat, the role of the AIM-9X Sidewinder missile in that process, and the multi-layered structure of modern air defense. Do you think an encounter like this would really unfold this cleanly and under control in real life, or would things spiral out of control much faster? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss tactical analyses like this.